Members, we have House File 850 up for consideration today. It was referred to the division by the Ways and Means Committee. Chair Hansen, do you move that House File 850 be laid over for possible inclusion in an omnibus bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House File 850. This is a chronic waste and disease appropriation. The bill, as it was introduced, was the recommendation from former Governor Dayton's budget. I anticipated there would be a budget recommendation from Governor Walz. I didn't know what it would be, so I wanted to get this in as a placeholder based on what the needs were last year. And I do have an author's amendment. I believe it is the A2 amendment, which does put in the governor's recommendation for the Commissioner of Natural Resources for responding to chronic waste and disease. And if I could move the A2 amendment to get it to the House File 850 to get the bill in the shape I would like.
Chair Hansen moves the A2 amendment. Representative Hansen, please speak to your amendment.
And I have Mr. Leach here to speak about the governor's budget recommendation.
Okay. Before we take testimony, we need to vote on the amendment. Chair Hansen has moved the A2 amendment. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The amendment is adopted. Now you may present your bill.
Thank you. Mr. Leach.
Madam Chair, committee members, my name is Jim Leach. I'm the director for the Division of Fish and Wildlife with Minnesota DNR. We are very supportive of this budget request from the governor. I can break it down into the various components of how it's proposed to be spent. Surveillance and response in Deer Permit Area 603, our southeast focus area, core area for CWD, will focus primarily in Fillmore, Houston, and Winona counties. That will be, again, surveillance and response in that area. For new Deer Permit Area 604, which is Crow Wing County.
A little clearer. They're having trouble hearing you, so I'll speak right into the mic. Got it. Eat the mic.
Is that better?
There you go.
Sorry about that. My apologies. I'm breaking down the governor's budget request and the request that's in Representative Hansen's bill. First, surveillance in 603, Fillmore, Winona, and Houston counties, $1 million each year for FY 20 and 21. That's for surveillance and response in that core area. With the new Deer Permit Area 604 in Crow Wing County, again, surveillance and response, we would propose to spend $436,000 each of the 2 fiscal years for surveillance and response in that new Deer Permit area. Also part of this is for 2 new enforcement officers, our law enforcement officers, to assist with CWD enforcement and regulation surveillance on existing cervid farms across the state. It's also calling for 1 new position for 2 years again to enhance our landowner outreach with private landowners in CWD areas. There is lots of interest and lots of education that needs to be done with private landowners about the disease, its spread, transmission to humans, and outreach to them is very critical. We've also noticed in the southeast that landowner outreach is extremely important to get on key properties for access to deer, and that's what that position would be really focused on. Again, $300,000 in fiscal year 20 and $200,000 in 21 for USDA culling efforts in the southeast, similar to what's ongoing right today in the southeast. And with the new find of CWD in Crow Wing County, we would propose funding for culling of the deer herd in Crow Wing around that positive deer farm, and where the new find was, that would be $250,000 just in FY 20. In total, it would be $4.57 million as a budget request for Representative Hansen's bill and what's in the governor's proposed budget. With that, I would open it up to questions.
And I believe Mr. Cornicelli is here, too, to answer any questions.
Thank you. Representative Lewick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess one of the questions I would have is, do we have a feel whether the USDA Wildlife Services folks from APHIS, if they've got enough capacity here to stretch without, because that's a very unique group of people, and I like to use the word taking additional samples instead of culling. Unfortunately, we do have to, eliminate the deer to take the sample, but that's a very specialized group of people with extremely rare and specialized skills. So I don't know if you've had any discussions as to can they bring enough people to bear at the same time to get the job done?
Director Leach.
Madam Chair, members, there has been ongoing discussions with USDA. They have the capacity to have a team in Crow Wing County yet this year and to continue our efforts in the southeast. Mr. Cornicelli will correct me if I'm wrong on any of this.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's a concern because there's not a lot of those folks out there with that skill set.
Are there other questions from the committee? Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of questions. Mr. Leach, Director Leach, you testified on the amount that you're requesting. How do you arrive at those numbers?
Director Leach.
Madam Chair and members, it's really based on past surveillance efforts. We know what we've spent on surveillance efforts in the southeast since we've been doing it for a number of years. So it's based on experience of what we anticipate our needs are in future years and our CWD response plan. If a new find of CWD is found in some part of the state, our response plan directs us to what we're going to do from a response. And we know what those costs are. So it's based on past experience and what we anticipate and see on the horizon.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And then there's been some concern expressed, I believe, by DNR and some of our committee members about earlier CWD efforts that since 2004, I believe, resulted in about $7.5 million being used out of the Game and Fish Fund. This is quite a chunk. Can you clarify for me DNR's maybe position in the past compared to what you seem to be doing here in this bill amendment?
Director Leach.
Madam Chair and members, again, the number, Representative Fabian, that you used, I'm not sure where that 7 million came from. If it was a DNR number, it came out of our shop, and Dr. Cornicelli will know that number more specifically than I. But what we're seeing now is with new cervid farms being identified as positive, it expands our need for our response plan. And each time that a new cervid farm is identified, it really requires DNR, per our surveillance plan, to increase surveillance for 3 years until we don't find a positive new deer in that geographic area. So the culmination of what we're doing in the southeast with the new find in Winona County, with the new find in Crow Wing County, these are additive costs. So if we were just to maintain our focus in the southeast, it would cost less than expanding our focus to Winona County, Meeker County, where we have a positive farm, and now Crow Wing County, where we have a third positive farm, where we're required to do surveillance for 3 years.
Representative
Thank
Fabian.
you, and I support that. But my point is that, and maybe Mr. Cornicelli can testify. I believe it was Commissioner Meyer that some people conveyed the message that they didn't like the fact, and I think maybe Representative Becker-Finn, Representative Hansen, Chair Hansen, didn't like the fact that $7.5 million was coming from the Game and Fish Fund to combat the CWD, and there were some references made, inferences made that somebody else should be doing this. Me, full disclosure, I've said from day one, as a deer hunter who belongs to the Deer Hunters Association, who bought 3 deer tags last year, Didn't tag a deer, but that's the price you pay. I'm okay with this. So I guess what I'm asking of the rest of the committee members is, are you okay now spending $900,000 out of the Game and Fish Fund and the DNR itself?
Director Leach? Or was that a question to all the other committee members?
It's somewhat of a rhetorical question, Madam Chair.
you.
Madam Chair and
Representative Hanson.
Representative Fabian, I think it wasn't right to be only funding these things out of the Game and Fish Fund. And so you look at both my original bill and as it's amended, and I believe the governor has said we need to have a general fund response. If you look at the section B, what that is funding, that is looking at more the things that I think are appropriate for the Game and Fish Fund, with assessing seasonal fawn survival and seasonal deer movement, obtain improved deer location data and dispersal patterns. So we're getting more science out of that applies not just to the response, but overall. And I think you've seen the DNR webpage where they're tracking as the deer are moving. I mean, I think that has helped inform the response, but also how we manage deer in general. So I think this is an appropriate recommendation. In addition, I did not include the components that are for the Board of Animal Health. I put them, so that's in a different lane. So I hope that answers your question.
Representative Fabian?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yeah, but just for the committee's knowledge, I believe that since 2004, there's been about $1.7 billion that have gone through the Game and Fish Fund. So the $750 million that people were having some heartburn over is really actually a very, very small fraction of the Game and Fish Fund. And again, as a legislator, as a deer hunter, I'm okay with that. I think that we need to spend the money as needed, and I support what you're doing. I think my numbers are right. Is that right, Mr. Hagemeyer?
Mr. Hagemeyer?
Or did I get a B wrong and a M?
Madam Chair, Representative Fabian, I think you're correct in there. You might have said $750 million for the deer research, which I'm sure they would love to have that amount, but they didn't.
7.5 million, I'm sorry.
I believe the 17-year period you had me look up was roughly $1.6 billion total for all the accounts in the Game and Fish Fund for revenues. The expenditures, as you mentioned, were $7.5 million that the DNR provided.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Becker-Finn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And had a couple other questions before we took this turn, but I think in response to that, I think the heartburn was not so much that the DNR is doing what they need to do to take care of this, but that the deer hunters are paying for something that is not exacerbated by their actions and their behaviors. I think that's the troubling piece. It's not the number overall. It's that, you know, when you look at the maps and you look at what we know that there's a connection with deer farms and with that industry. And, you know, they're not paying for those costs, even though, you know, the positives found in their areas are directly related to the surveillance efforts that are then necessary for the wild deer herd. So I think, like, let's be clear, that's what the concern is over. It's not about using game and fish dollars for deer-related activities. It's because who should be paying, and is it fair that deer hunters are the ones paying for that? And so I think that's, so that actually is related to my first question. So the amounts requested for surveillance by the DNR, do those amounts cover the full amount of the work you're doing, or is any other piece helping to support those efforts?
Director Leach or Dr. Cornelius?
I would call on Dr. Cornicelli to answer that. I believe the answer is yes, but I would rather have Dr. Cornicelli respond accordingly.
Madam Chair, Representative Becker-Finn, we think so. I mean, sorry, for the record, I should know that. For the record, Lou Cornicelli, Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. As best we can tell, yes. We're certainly thankful for any bit of general fund we get to do this work, because as I've talked about, it's kind of a societal broad issue. Certainly, there's other work we're looking at doing, engaging our deer hunters and general public on disease in general. Some of the hunter losses we've seen may be related to disease. So I think there's other work we'd like to do. However, I think this identifies what we would plan to do, given the uncertainty of what we might find next week or the next 2 weeks.
Representative Becker-Finn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So again, 100% of the costs, it sounds like, of this additional surveillance is being done on the wildlife side, even though there are direct connections to, other areas of the law and other funds. And so, again, related to that, so I'm glad to see that part of the plan is to add additional conservation officers and the landowner outreach piece, because I don't think people kind of realize that that was a really unique thing that you guys have started to do that is really, I think, helpful, and especially now that that piece of outreach to your average Minnesotan and your average deer hunter is now going to have to include folks in the northern part of the state as well now with the positive in Crow Wing County. So I was really glad that was included, because I think that's important, that we're really connecting with deer hunters and your average deer hunter who is having to change the way they do things because of this. And then my last question is wondering if this includes, or if part of the plan involves, any tribal outreach, because a piece of this that we maybe haven't fully discussed in these committees yet is that there are some treaty implications and some implications as we talk about meaningful consultation with the tribes. I think, too, this positive in Crow Wing County is now, all of these positives have ramifications for all of our constitutional right to hunt, but is also getting awfully close to that treaty territory. And that's really concerning. And so I'm just wondering what kind of outreach we're doing to, share these positive results, share recommendations with our tribal communities.
Dr. Cornicelli.
Madam Chair, Representative Becker-Finn, that's an excellent point, and we've done that. You're right. I think the north end of the area touches 1855. And when we put the call out of notifying affected folks, legislators, county officials, tribal representatives were included in that notification. So they were called individually by one of our staff members. And our plan is to, as we go, you were perfectly correct, this engagement piece and outreach and working with landowners, but that work involves not only hunters and landowners, but the general public as well, and all those who are affected, and the tribal folks, especially in this area, because it does touch the treaty areas. That's top of mind for us.
Thank you.
Are there other questions for Representative Heinzman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm glad that the doctor's here today, and I would also like to thank Representative Heinzman for bringing this bill forward. I think there's a lot of positive elements here, and I'm hoping.
Hanson, you said Heitzman yourself.
You thank you.
That doesn't normally happen, but a glitch, I apologize. No, it must be the beard, Representative Lewick says. That could be.
Could be.
Thank you, Representative Hanson, for bringing this issue forward. I do have a question piggybacking on what Representative Becker-Finn was mentioning. And this is a question that's coming to me, not Representative Hanson in Crow Wing County. A lot of residents are of course noticing the proximity of the animal that was found in Crow Wing County to the cervid. And in the day and age of some incredible science and genetic information that can link an animal or a person to a specific area, where is the science at this point? I mean, are we to the point now where we can say we know that this animal was infected by an animal in this location, or are there other environmental factors that we're still considering?
Dr. Cornicelli.
Madam Chair, Representative Heinzman.
Thank you.
The science isn't there yet. There's been some work on Western blot testing related to strain typing of chronic wasting disease prions, but it's not there yet. It's not like, as Representative Lewick would know, that you can strain type bovine TB down to the state it came from. We can't do that yet with the chronic wasting disease prion. So that science is constantly evolving, and we may get there someday. Like I said, there's been a little bit of work done on elk, but it's been pretty thin, and it's not really conclusive. We're just not there yet with respect to, this is the Indiana strain of this disease or somewhere else.
Representative Heinzman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And, okay, so to follow up, I appreciate that answer. Do we, as legislators or other folks that people are looking to for information, do we need to be cautious when we suggest that there's a direct connection or to a deer farm, a cervid farm specifically? Or is there other ways that we're making that leap, determining that? Now, considering that this animal that was found in my county is less than a half mile away from a farm, I think that's a reasonable thing for people to I guess, assume. But based on what you just said, that may not be the direction that as leaders on this particular issue that we should be making a statement that we know or we are certain that CWD positive animal is directly connected to the cervid farm.
Dr. Cornicelli.
Madam Chair, Representative Heinzman, that's why you see likely in what we've been saying. We're looking at our past surveillance data in the area, which is extensive. I think almost 9,000 deer sampled. We look at the infection on that facility, which has now really been occurring since 2016 up through 2018, and then the proximity of a clinically found dead deer out so close to the facility. So it doesn't, for our measure of likely, it's not necessarily the ability to strain type. It's more associated with the data that we've collected and the inferences we can make based on that information we have. So I think likely is the term we've been using, and I think that's the appropriate term. We haven't said definitely or conclusively. We've said likely. So that's kind of where we're going with that.
Representative Lewick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Quite a bit different subject, but and I just asked this question on a broader front because we know that there's some potential connection with moose and chronic wasting disease, and are we just kind of looking at that, or obviously you got your hands full, more than your hands full right now, but we've had this long-standing issue with the moose population, and part of that has to do with a lot more white-tailed deer in the areas where there's moose. So, and again, just are we at least sensitive to that there's a possibility there that could be a problem for moose also?
Dr. Cornicelli.
Madam Chair, Representative Lewick, yes, moose are susceptible to chronic wasting disease just like all cervids are. As part of our, when we had a moose season, as part of our adult moose mortality study, CWD was in the panel of tests that we did. So all the moose that have either been killed by hunters since mid-2000s plus everything in the mortality study has been tested where we can, and we've had all not detected results. The moose issue is certainly related to a whole host of factors, winter ticks, liver flukes, brainworm, all sorts of stuff, but we've not implicated CWD because we haven't found it in the arrowhead, either in deer or in moose.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, that's, at least that's one thing that's not on the list that we're wrestling with over moose.
Madam Chair, I believe there's an amendment, and I know that Representative Davids is getting nervous.
Yes. Yes, and Representative Becker-Finn, I believe you have the A3 amendment. Would you like to move the amendment?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Representative Becker-Finn moves the A3 amendment. Please speak to your amendment.
Yep. So, members, the A3 amendment, with the blessing of the author of the bill, the A3 amendment is the funding that was discussed in this committee. Request from the U of M to put together a CWD supergroup and develop a diagnostic test for chronic wasting disease, so that we could test sooner and have results possibly in live animals. And this would also include that we take into account environmental health and human health potential impacts as well. So this actually matches the standalone bill that I've brought forward, and would ask for your support.
Representative Beckerfin moves the A3 amendment. Is there any further discussion? Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I support the concept here. I think we need to have a discussion somewhere through this process about using LCCMR as a source of funding for this. I think it would fit really quite well, but that's for another day.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The amendment is adopted. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to testify for or against this bill? And Representative Beckerfin?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members, for your support of the amendment. I did, one more quick question for Dr. Cornicelli, wherever he ran off to. Maybe someone else knows the answer to this. I know that I'd been listening to KFAN Outdoors over the weekend, and I just wanted to clarify in how many feet away the positive CWD deer was found from the fence of the captive facility where they've had positives.
Dr. Cornicelli?
Madam Chair, Representative Beckerfin, I apologize. I didn't mean to get up so quickly. About a half mile, between 4/10 and a half, so 2,600 feet, give or take.
Representative Beckerfin?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And just, wanted to point out that I think likely could mean a lot of things, but I think the potential of that being from some other location, the most likely source is probably the positive that was 2,600 feet away. So thank you.
Madam Chair.
Representative Fabian?
Just real quickly to testifiers. Recently, I came upon an article it referenced Dr. Frank Bostein from Louisiana State University, who's working on a test and so forth. Are you familiar with that work, and what's your impression of that? I believe that all science needs to be brought in here. Help me out, Dr. Cornicelli.
Dr. Cornicelli?
Madam Chair, Representative Fabian, yes, I'm aware of that. It's been getting a lot of, I can't tell you how many times that's been forwarded to me over the last week. The person in question is a medical doctor at Louisiana State University, published a study some time ago theorizing that it wasn't actually a prion, it was a bacteria instead, and that study has yet to be replicated. So, and I believe, I can't recall the individual's name from the University of Minnesota, did a really nice job at his testimony, talking about looking at the stars from the Earth and pretending it's the Hubble telescope. I like that analogy. I think until that science can be replicated, it's hard to put a lot of power into. The foremost experts on these diseases firmly believe, both from human health in CJD and bovines and sheep and deer, that this is a prion disease. It's not a spirochete. So until that work can be replicated in the lab or somewhere else, it doesn't seem plausible at this time.
Thank you. We do have another testifier.
Madam Chair, for the record, my name is Lance Ness. I'm the president of the Minnesota Conservation Federation and president of the Fish and Wildlife Legislative Alliance. I'll be brief because I know you have more business to do here. I do have a copy we're handing out with our letterhead on it. And again, I'll be brief. This is not a deer hunting issue. I'll repeat that. This is not a deer hunting issue. This is a public health issue. I've listened, as all of you have, to the testimony of the U of M veterinary school professors, and they recommended that no one should eat venison that's contaminated by CWD. We're very concerned that the actions taken so far by the state in response to these outbreaks. In the past, we have outbreaks of other diseases, such as bovine tuberculosis and avian flu in turkeys. We have acted immediately to cull those herds and prevent further spread of the disease. But we seem to have dragged our feet a little on this issue. How long before the first butcher shop reports that they are contaminated by processing a deer that carries CWD? And we have no choice but to close and shut down that business. We are concerned not only about the tradition of harvesting venison since this country was founded, but will be lost, and the ramifications that will result in the millions of dollars. This is not a deer hunting issue. This is a public health issue and an economic issue. Thank you.
Thank you. I will renew Representative Hansen's motion that House File 850 is as amended be laid over for possible inclusion in an omnibus bill. The bill is laid over.